Greetings, Internet, and welcome to Aaron Plays, and I hope you're doing fantastically well. This will be episode 4 of my upfront playthrough, a pose playthrough, called City Fight. It's Scenario B. I'm playing the Russians, my opponent is Randy, and he's playing the Germans, and this was a live session we played. We recorded it as a log on the Vassal, which I'm now going to narrate through. So let's go to the screen and see what's going on. Cool. Okay, as you can see, that's the play area. If you watch the previous 3 episodes, we are into deck 2 most of the way through. The scenario is 3 decks. The aim of scenario B is to get as many of your guys into building terrain as far up the relative range chart. So this group, my group A, is at range 3, but it's not in buildings, so it will not count any points. Whereas my group B, which is at range 1, will be 4 times 1, which will be worth 4 points. And my group C, which is in buildings, which is range 2, there's 4 there. 4 times 2 is 8 points. So I've got 12 points on the board at the moment. Randy has got 4 times 1, 2 times 1, and 2 times 2. So that's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So on a slight lead there. Also, the casualty points are counted, which we currently, if I bring that up, I'm going to minimize that a little bit. Let's minimize that a bit. So I've lost 2 guys. One is a KIA, one is a rout. He's lost 2 guys. One is a KIA, one is a rout. A rout counts as 1 point, a KIA 2. Now I'm slightly in the lead as we stand. Okay, now this was done as a live game, but I did keep a log, and we'll be going through the log, discussing what's played, why it's played, and yeah, just generally finish off this particular scenario. So I've got a little button here that allows me to go through the log, and he's playing a fire card. I asked him to actually place it on the group that he's firing from, so I can keep track of why it's firing, where it's firing. So we look at the relative range from his group to my group. So it's 3 plus 1 is 4. So at range 4, we look at his card at the top there. That's got that light machine gun develops 8 firepower, which is what's required in the circle, and that will give it an attack of 3 fire strength, which he then brings onto that group. He then draws a card for each of the guys of mine in that group, so 1 for each target, and then compares it to his fire. So the fire strength at the moment is 3 from the fire card, minus 2 from the alleyways. Let me just bring my hand up so you can see what I've got, because I do not know what he's got. I've got no concealment that I can add to use to subtract from his fire strength. So his net fire strength is 1 at the moment, and then whatever's shown on these cards. A red number is a negative, a black number is a positive, and it's the number right in the top corner of each card. So if you watch the other previous videos, I've already gone through this, and I'm only going to go through it the once in this kind of detail. So that's the numbers we're looking at. Okay, so his first card there is 1 plus 0, and you compare it to my morale on Private Podgorny, morale 4, no effect. Second, 0 plus 1 is 1, morale of 5, no effect. Third guy, 0 plus 1 is 1, my third guy, morale 3, no effect. Fourth guy, 0 + 1 is 1. He's got a morale 5, no effect. And the final one, +5, ow, +1 is 6. And the morale of Private Igorski is normally 3, but his weapon's broken. So that drops his morale by 1, so his morale's 2. So he will become pinned. And that's shown by flipping the counter over. And that's the end of that particular shot. Randy, as it shows there in the text, over on the side here, then draws back into his hand. All I do is discard. Let's just go back over that. Minefield's a coward card, so an absolute useless in this scenario. Can't use it. So now with the Russians, you can do an action on each group, or you can discard. And if you discard, you can discard up to the entirety of your hand. As the Germans, you can do an action on each of your groups and discard. The maximum discard is 1. So I am getting rid of 3 cards, which I can't do anything with, and then drawing 3 cards. Great. So I've got a bit of movement. Concealment. Alexa, stop. Why do they come? I didn't say anything about requesting Alexa, but she comes in. So nothing there that is going to rock my boat. So we carry on. Back to Randy. And he just discards a card and draws a card. I played that rally 1 that I picked up to rally. You can see that fixes him. And then I draw a fire card. Woo-hoo! And he discards and draws. Now, there's a lot of this in up front. Is it a downside? No. I view it as a lull, where both sides are getting ready for the next bit of action. Where I could discard again my entire hand if I wished. And what I was doing what I did instead was an action on the group. Right, move that out of the way. And what I did, as you can see, I've drawn. Let me just backtrack that a bit. Right, I drew a card and was referring to fixing his weapon. And if you can see in the text, it's got weapon malfunctions, like a red thing on it, and it shows what is required to fix that weapon right at the top of the card. It says repair 0 to 6 in black and broken in 5 to 6 in red. I drew, and again looking at that little number there, red 2. So in other words, he's trying to fix his malfunctioned weapon. It hasn't fixed, but that is an action on that group. Therefore, I cannot do any discards. Let's put that away. And German again just discards and draws a card. And that finishes that draw pile. So we put and then shuffle the cards, as you can see in the text on the side there. We shuffle it a couple of times. I don't know how many times we need to shuffle it. Maybe it's just the once. I don't know how much randomness is done that. You never really know with a Vassal module. You just play as the best you can. And as you can see, the deck 3 has changed. It hasn't changed yet. Deck remaining, that should. Sound effects. And so we're into the final deck at this particular point. How we continue. I'm trying to fix that weapon. It is a black 4, which was in those categories. He fixes his machine gun, machine pistol, and you can see I now remove that little barrier on the card. And that will complete my go. Randy now discards, and he discards a sniper on my group there. Snipers are played as discards. When you draw a sniper or play a sniper, what he's playing it on, or which group he's playing it on, he will now determine which of the 5 men in that group is targeted by the sniper. And that's what he does, that by looking at the bottom numbers on that card. You can see those numbers in red and black, and with the little numbers 1, 2, 2B, 3, 4C, 5 on the lower row. It's a 5-man group, so he's looking at the 5-0 column, and that shows that it's number 3, so it's the 3rd man in my group, which is Private Byabakov. So I bring that guy up just to emphasize it is that guy's being targeted. He now draws to see the effect of the sniper. And if we look at the sniper card, it says right at the top, sniper, KIA 4 to 6, pin 2 to 3. And the color of the random number check, so that big color, has no effect on the actual shot. So 4 to 6, red or black, is a KIA. So it's a good sniper attempt. And he flips his card, and it's a black 0 in that top corner. So therefore, no effect. And we discard the cards. I then have an option with my group B, sorry, my group A, to see if I can see a sniper. I can do what's called a sniper check. And for that, I have to score higher than his 0, which has got, but it's got to be a black number. But I opt not to do that. He draws a card to fill his hand. I decide to fire with my group A. So our group A is firing. It's got 8 firepower. And it's targeting his group B. I just wanted to get the game, do a sniper check. Yeah, it might have been useful to get rid of his sniper, but I'm conscious we're into the last deck, and it's still, I am not currently winning. So the firepower, we're at range 4, 3 on my card, plus 1 is 4. And for that, I look at the range 4 numbers. So you can see on the private Portogny with the little machine pistol develops at range 4, 3 firepower. And I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 of those weapons. So that's 12 firepower from the machine pistols. And then the rifle is developing at that range another 2. So that's 14 firepower. So I can easily play the 8. Fire strength of 3. That's the fire 3. Minus 2 for his building gives me a fire attack or fire strength with attack of 1. And he's got 2 men in the group, so I'd reveal 2 cards. First man, 2, so it was 1, minus 1 because it's red, 0, plus 6 is 7. Very close to taking Private Schutzel, PVC Schutzel, out of the game, KIA 8. So I've scored 1 more point, which I can't because the highest I can score on these cards is a black 6. But if he's been in a lesser building or the fire strength had been 1 higher, Private Schutzel would have been no more. As is, he's chewing dirt. All the cards then discarded. This is my current hand now. I remember I could do actions on each group, but I can't then discard. So Randy plays a rally 3, and I said to him, please hold on, I've drawn a card. So I draw another movement card. He then plays a rally 3, which rallies Private Schutzel. So my fire, in effect, did nothing. He then discards a card from his hand, which he's allowed to do, and he brings it into his hand. I then discard and pick up a building, which made me go, wait, because remember, buildings are what I score points on. So I've got 2 groups which are in buildings, and I've got this group here, which isn't. And at that point, I'm thinking, well, if I can get them into a building, which that building I've just picked up, then actually I will take the lead, because then I will have 5 men at range 3, which will be worth 15 points on their own. So this is why I was like, ooh. And he discards, draws a card. I then play a movement on my group, and I don't want to move them forward. As you see, what I'll do is I'll play it sideways. So I'm quite happy to stay at the range. I don't want to go to range 4. I want to stay at that range. And notice that the card has got the word flank on it. So I want to bring a flank attack onto his group B, which will double my firepower. Remember, at this range, I'm already sitting at 14 fire strength. If I double it, because I'm flanking fire on them, that'll be 28 fire strength, which is more than enough firepower for any fire card and even multiple fire cards in the deck. Plus, I'm trying to get them into that building card I just picked up. So I was thinking at that point, that's pretty good. I picked up the flanking fire counter, and I then picked up a hedge. Yeah, not too bothered about the hedge. It's that building that I'm excited about. Randy then decides to fire on my moving group, but it's a weak fire card, which I'm quite happy about. So he's got a fire strength of 2, +1 for my moving is 3, -2 for the alleyway is 1. And I played the concealment card that was in my hand. This particular card's got 2 sides. You've got the first side of it, which is a cower card, which is a useless card for any, and you've got the little symbols underneath that, which is German, American, Italian, French, and British. It's a cower card. For the Japanese, the Russians, and the Finns, it's a concealed 1. So I played it as the Russians concealed 1. That takes his fire strength to 0. He then draws the 5 cards to affect my group. First one's a 2. Remember these guys, morale's pretty good. Morale 4. He's all right. Next one, he's okay. Okay. -1. -3. No effect on his shot. All right. He then decides he needs to get out of this flanking fire. So he plays this card in a retrograde. He declared it as retrograde. He still kicked it the wrong way up. It doesn't matter. He declared it as retrograde. And he goes to range 0. So he's moving away. Therefore, my flanking fire that I was getting excited about is removed. But he's now moving back to 0. So even if he stays in the buildings, those 2 men are worth 0 points. He could have moved forward. He could have even moved his card as a flanking card to also negate any movement card negates the flanking. But he decided to go back. Maybe didn't like that my guys were getting very close, because that group A of mine also has the demolition charge. But he discards and fills his hand. I can now, in my turn, place that building on my group. So I've now got those 5 men at range 3 in a building, so they are worth 15 points. And then I filled up my hand. Useful. I don't need the hero card at this precise moment, but it's a good card to have. He can rally 1 guy at any time, as it says on there. As no action, can be played immediately. And the other thing it does, it can double the firepower of one of my guys. So I'm looking at my group A here, which is close to, it's at relative range 4 to his group A. I can develop 14 firepower at that range. A hero could double one of those, so I can get maybe up to 17 firepower. He now moves that group A back, his group B into an alleyway. Obviously, he didn't have another building in his hand. So he's just getting them out of being too close to my guys. Pulls back his hand. I then discard. What did I discard? Was that a movement card? Yeah, I don't need to move at the moment, so I'm just discarding a movement and the hedges. I don't want to move into hedges. I need to be in buildings, and I think all my groups, as you can see, are in buildings. So I pick up okay cards, I suppose. I'd rather have a fire. You know, I now managed to get up to 14 firepower. And what do I start drawing? Really low cards. When you're only able to develop really low firepower, what do you get? Really high firepower cards. Oh well, that's the way the cookie crumbles. The Germans just draw, and I'm just discard as well. Remember, I can discard as many cards as I want as long as I don't do any actions. And so I discard that rally 1 because I've already got a rally 2 in the hand. And I think, you know what, I'm not going to waste my time with a fire 1, considering he's in buildings and alleyways. If he was running in the open, possibly. But nah. Oh, look at that. And I get it even worse. Well, is it worse? I need 1 firepower to develop fire 1, but there we go. And a wall, don't need a wall. So German discards and draws. I discard those 2 and draw. Ah, great. A minefield card, which is, again, cower, no use. And a fire 3. It's better than the previous 2. Rally discards and draws. I discard and draw. I think I'll keep the fire 3. Now I've got movement. German discards a card from the German hand again and draws. I discard and draw. So I've now got conceal, fire, rally, and hero. None of which is great, but none of which is bad. And it keeps drawing. I discard that. What do I fire this time? No, I fire. So my group B is going to fire on his group B. So I'm developing 3 firepower. Sorry, I've got 4 firepower in my group because we're at range. We're only at range 1 here. We're very quite distant. But my light machine gun at range 1 can develop. You see, it's got 4 in the brackets 2. It's developing 4. So he's developing all the firepower to activate this card. My fire strength is 3 against his alleyway -2. So therefore it's 1. 1 + 1 is 2, no effect. And a red 6. That means one of my weapons, which, because the whole fire group is firing, has broken. Even though the only one that's actually generating any fire strength at that range is the LMG, any one of those weapons, apart from the guy that's helping feed the machine gun, could break. So we work out which man. We're using that random number check. So we look at the numbers under the blue. It's a 4-man group, and it's number 2. Yet it's the LMG that does break. And I put a malfunction counter on top of it to show that. Great. Discard all the cards. So my fire did nothing other than break my own light machine gun. I then draw to fill back my hand. Randy thinks at this point it might be worthwhile now to move forward. Okay, with his group C. Now, he's at relative range at 2 at the moment, and I'm at relative range 2. So that brings it, sorry, I'm at range 2, he's at range 2. It brings us to relative range 4 at the moment, but he's moving forward. So this is going to bring us right up to point blank range. Moving forward, you can see that range has now changed to 3. So we are as close as we can actually get, other than when he starts to infiltrate. So I think he wants to get that demo charge on me. Plays the movement card. And he fills back his hand. What did I draw that for? Fixing my machine gun. Yeah, I know. I'm trying to remember. Why did I do that? Yeah, I drew a card to see if I fix my machine gun. It's got a black number. If you look on the actual card itself, it's repaired, black 1 to 6, broken 4 to 6. That fixes it. But that's a lovely building card. No use to us whatever, because it was just used for a random number check. So I fixed my weapons, so I remove the broken, and that goes back in the deck. Never to be seen again, because it's the last deck. And as you can see, we're already a quarter of the way through it. He now places an alleyway in there. So he's now moved to range 3 and not put a building on them. So he's definitely going for, let's get the demo charge going, because he's just given up. He was in range 2, four victory points. So I'm now well in the lead. And you can see how quickly it changes if finding buildings. There are 8, there's 164 cards in this deck, only 8 of which are buildings. Okay, so this is my current hand. The only change is this smoke, which is useful for Americans and British. No use to me whatsoever. It's a cower card. Okay, continuing. He's discarding and draws and draws. I get rid of that smoke because it's no use to me at all. And I'll replace it with a fairly decent fire card. Okay. Let's see what happens next. I play said decent fire card from my group, because now we're at range 5. I'm like, okay, I've got to do something here. So it's 5 strength of 4, -2 for the alleyway. That becomes 3, which is not enough to pin Corporal Hessel, and a 3, which is not enough to do Private Hauptmann. So no effect. And I replace it with a big fire card. My group A is now getting excited because I can play that in combination with the hero. Okay. Right. Okay. Just remembering why these 2 cards were drawn by the German. Randy wants to infiltrate my group, because to be able to infiltrate, he can then set off that demo charge, which has got, if you look at the box values, got a fire strength of 8. So that's what he wants to do. However, there's 2 ways you can infiltrate. You've got to be relative range 5, which we are. He could then declare as an action how many men he wants to infiltrate with. He's declared both. He could then play a movement card on each man, and then it will be an automatic attempt at infiltration. Notice the word attempt. We'll go through infiltration in a bit more detail now. He declined to play a movement card. Either he hasn't got any, or he decides that he wants to try it by the morale, because their morale is pretty good. So if you haven't got a movement card, you do or decline to play a movement card, you do a morale check on each guy. So looking at, that's morale 4, he's looking at the number here, and that number, no matter if it's red or black, is the morale check. And that number has to be less than the morale on his card. So he's morale 4. So his first guy can now attempt infiltration. His second guy, getting that red 2, doesn't matter the color, is less than his morale 5. So Private Hauptmann can attempt infiltration. If he had movement cards, he wouldn't have to go through this step. So he gets rid of those. So now both guys can now attempt infiltration. So to do the infiltration itself, we're looking at those bottom row of numbers again. So he draws the first card for the first guy, who is Corporal Hessel. He's infiltrating a four-man group. So you're looking at column 4. So that's, and then because he's coming from an alleyway, look at the text on the alleyway. It says NA to mortifier, and then it says inf from 1 shift left. So infiltration from, so he's coming from an alleyway, is 1 shift to the left. So that takes it to from the 4 number to the 3 number, which is a red 1. The number, the score is irrelevant. We're looking for just red or black. So therefore, with a red number, that means Corporal Hessel has managed to infiltrate. Yeah, it's a little bit of a... This is probably the most complex part of the rules, is the infiltration and close combat section. But they've managed to infiltrate. And hence he gets a little infiltrator marker on him. Second guy, we're looking at the same column. So the column 3 now, because we know it's a 4-man group. One to shift for the left because we're coming from the alleyway becomes a black number. He failed to infiltrate. There's no detriment to him other than they failed to infiltrate. If he'd, on that first step, failed the morale check, they would have become pinned. They're not pinned, they just failed to infiltrate, which is nice for me because that means he can't blow off that demo charge. However, his infiltrator could, in a future round, go into close combat with one of my guys in my group C, because he's infiltrated my group C. The other option he could do is double Corporal Hessel's firepower. At range 5, he's got 5 firepower, as you can see on his card. Infiltrate, he's got 10 firepower. So that's particularly nasty. Right. He then discards a sniper on my group, just to rub salt into the wound. So again, he now determines which man in my group is going to be. We're looking at the 4th man group, and we're looking at the 4th man. So looking at under that 4C in blue is the 4th man in my group. Color not relevant in this case. So my guy, I bring him forward to show he's being targeted by the sniper, and he then draws for the effect, which is a red 2, no effect because on the sniper card, 5 or 6 is a kill, pin 3 or 4, 2, no effect. Ooh. And that brings back to me, at which point, right, okay. So I play the hero card, doubling the firepower of one of my guys with the machine pistol, and that gives me a fire strength of 7 as usual, or 16 firepower, which I play against his group A. So it's 7 minus 3 for the building is 4 minus, he played a concealment 3. So 4-man group with 3, that becomes a 4. His first man's a 5, no effect. That becomes a 4, first the guy, morale 5, no effect. So this massive fire card is doing nothing. Oop. Pins that guy. And pins that guy. And I then discard the cards. Okay. I'm now, as we're at range 5, I might as well try and infiltrate. And I'm not going to be playing any movement cards. So that's 2 of my men going forward. And I'm doing morale checks, just the same as Randy did. So morale 5, first guy rolls a 0, that's fine. Second guy rolls a 0. So both my guys can now attempt, they pass their morale checks. So again, looking now, he's only a 2-man group. Look at my first guy. There's no modifiers for mine, so I'm just looking under the 2, which is the 2B column. It's a red number. He becomes an infiltrator. My second guy, under the 2 column, black, he fails to infiltrate. And hence why. So we're now infiltrating each other's groups. So it's going to start getting nasty. I draw. Ooh, I managed to get a sniper card. But remember, my problem is I can only play a sniper card if I don't do any actions on any of my groups. He rallies, plays rally all, rally 4, which rallies those 2 guys. That massive fire card therefore did nothing. But you don't know. If he didn't have a rally card in his hand, then they would stay pinned. Okay. He was attempting a morale check to go into close combat. So morale 4, his morale is 4 on his counter. He didn't play a movement card, so he did a morale check. He failed the morale check, which pins his guy and stopped him being an infiltrator. He played a hero straight away to rally that guy, and I then thought, wait a minute, playing the hero is an automatic rally, can be played at any moment, so I don't think he loses his infiltration status. So I said, because he failed the morale check, plays the pin, the hero card, automatic rally, so therefore he wouldn't lose his infiltrate. That was my thinking. And so nothing particularly happened there other than he failed to get in close combat. Notice now we're down to half the deck remaining. And he fills back up his hand. I decide to fire again from my group A onto his group A. Fire strength of 4. At this point, I'm actually sort of actively burning the deck. I didn't really need to do that shot because I'm way ahead on victory points at this moment in time. So fire strength of 4. So it'd be fire strength of 4. -3 for building is 1. If I could pin a guy, great. Only the last guy's pinned. I then decide my infiltrator is going to go into close combat. Remembering I do not have any movement cards. So he will have to do a morale check. Morale of 5 though. And he draws a 1. So he is going into close combat. I then have to determine which of his 2 men randomly I will go into close combat. So again, we're looking at the numbers at the bottom of the card. And it's the first man. We'll look at there. It's the number 2. First man, which is his infiltrator. So I bring his guy out. So we're now in close combat. So that's bayonets, butts of the rifles and so on. Looking at the guys, my close combat value, notice at the top there it's got CCV. My CCV is 10. The /5, I mean, if he was pinned, his close combat value would be 5. So that's Private Trinenko. And Corporal Hessel has only got a combat value of 7 and then 4. The reason being, the close combat value is dependent on the weapon plus the morale. So he's got a morale of 4. A machine pistol's not that good in close combat. It doesn't have a bayonet or a butt that you can smack someone with. So it's not a great weapon for close combat. Whereas a rifle, it could have a bayonet on it. He could also use it as a club with his butt. So, and he's also a morale 5. So my guy is a little bit more keen to get into the actual fight. At that point, we actually then ask each other, do we want to play a concealment card on? And I do have a concealment card. That -2 will lower the German combat value by 2 because my guy's being a bit more sneaky. So he declined to play any concealment. So I'm assuming he either has none or didn't want to play it. But mine does. So now the combat values are, mine's still 10. His has now gone down to 5. We then draw a card each from the deck. Reds being negative numbers. Again, we're looking at the big numbers at the top. Blacks being positive numbers. So my draw, I flip it, is a -1. So that drops my combat value from 10 to 9. That's my final score in the close combat is 9. He's currently on 5. If he draws a big black number at 4 or higher, a 4 would be a black 4 would be a tie. Therefore, both guys get wiped, get KIA. A black 5 or 6, he wins. And if you win a close combat, you kill the other guy, you're fine. So what will Randy get? There's his card. It's a 0. So it's not good enough. I win that close combat. Move my guy back, and I win by 3 or more. I can maintain my infiltration status. So my score of 9 against his final score of 5 is 4 difference. I maintain the infiltration. His guys move to the KIA section. And then I draw another concealed 2 and a movement. Back to Randy's turn. He decides to fire. He has enough firepower to generate. So that's 3 minus 2 for the building is 1. He's firing a 5-man group. I don't think anything had any effect, no. Which I'm happy with him. Please keep firing because it's burning that deck. And I've got most victory points at the present moment. He then discards, draws back into his hand. I'm now playing a movement card on my guy so I don't have to do a morale check because I want my infiltrator to now take out Private Hopman, who must be feeling a bit lonely now. So that means I do not have to do the morale check. So it's an automatic infiltration attempt, close combat attempt. I'm already infiltrating. There's only 1 man in his group, so it's now Private Chenko versus Private Hopman. And again, my guy's got the edge here because he's got the close combat value of 10 versus Hopman, who's a little bit better because his morale's 5 as well, is at 8. I then play that concealed 2 card again. Well, it's a different concealed 2, but one I picked up, so that drops his 8 to a 6. He hasn't got any, and I get a 2. So I'm now at a combat value of 12. He's at 6, so he needs a black 6 to equal. No, not enough. That takes out his Private Hopman. My guy goes, there's no one to infiltrate. His group C has been taken out. So I lose the infiltration status. I could have moved into his alleyway if I wanted to, but I'm quite happy in my building because that's scoring me points. And I pick up a concealed -3 and a massive fire card, but I can't play that card because I don't have that hero anymore. And as the Stranglers would say, no more heroes anymore. Okay, we're getting into pretty much endgame now. He rallies that guy. So he did ask the question, is my squad now broken? And the answer is no. He started with 10 men. A squad breaks if it loses 50% or more. No, more than 50%. So he'd have to lose another 2 guys for his squad to be broken. He decides to do a little fire. At this point, I think he just wants to get the game over because a fire strength of 1 against my -1 building. Do I even waste the concealed 3? No. No effect. So it's just burning the deck. Okay, what do I do? So I know I can't play this card, so I might as well discard it. And I'm going to discard the sniper as well. And I play that on his group A. So I've got to determine which man it is. And it is Private Bernhoff. And the effect, 5. That pins him. No, it's KI 6. So the values on the sniper cards do change. Because one of the earlier ones, when he attacked me, that would have been a KIA. But it's not. It's just a pin. With all those cards. And I pick up a trench and a fire card. Trench no use to me. But that fire card is. Randy does another low fire card. Really trying to hurt my group A. But they're too much in cover. Notice the deck now is going into its last quarter. Effect on my group. Nothing. I think. Okay, so I now generate 5 firepower. Again, as I said, I'm quite happy to burn the deck. And I'm bringing it onto his group. He has got a -2 concealment. And he's got 4 men. No effect at all. And I pick up a rally. Yeah, nothing great there. I mean, the -3 concealment is useful. He discards cards, I discard cards, and I pick up. So I got rid of a rally, and I picked up a rally. I got rid of a trench, and I picked up a trench. Great. He rallies his guy. Don't know why it flipped over. I just get rid of those 2 cards, and I pick up a waterway and another concealment. This card's still here, but for some reason, he's now decided. I did highlight that. He got rid of it. He's now moving. He needs to move forward. He needs to get into some buildings. I can then fire. Oh no, so he's firing on me with the firepower. I play that -3 concealment, negating his fire strength of 5. Take away 5 is 0. He still generates a shot. So I don't understand why, but he does. No effect. To me, that's playing into my hands, but there we go. I then discard and taking my hand down to just the 1 rally card that's been in my hand pretty much all of this episode. He cannot reject the waterway. So you presume he was trying to get into a building. They stumble into a little waterway, which is going to slow him down. They're sitting in an exposed position. I fill up my hand. Okay. Movement and rally. And maybe a bit of concealment if I need to. He needs to get out of that waterway, and he can because he's got a movement card with the word forward, which automatically gets him out. If he didn't have the word forward on the side, he could still play the movement card and then draws a random number. If it's black, he forwards the waterway. If it's red, he's milling about in the water. But he managed to play a forward card. Great, he's out of it. I can then, he's firing now. Onto my group again. I play that -2 concealment. So he's now firing at negative numbers. No effect, which I'm quite happy with. Filling up his hand. As you can see, the deck is really depleting. I'm just deleting cards because I've got nothing else really that I need to do at this point. He generates another fire attack, which I think will finish off the actual game. There we go. The draw pile's empty. I couldn't remember at this point I think we resolved the attack. And because it's a 5-man group, we just reshuffle that deck, even though this is... Shuffle the deck there. Draw another card. That finishes off, and he can place his men into the building. So he finished off his turn. I'm not sure if that's 100% correct, but at which point we worked at that it was irrelevant anyway. As you can see, that ends the log file, which ended the game. The final score is I've got 5 men at range 3 in a building, so that's 15 points for my group A. 4 men at 1, that's another 4, so it takes me to 19. And 4 men at 2, which is another 8. 19 plus 8 is 27, just from the buildings. And then I've taken out a few of his guys. I mean, I can bring up the casualties. So I'm at 27. Oh, why does it work? Vassal sometimes baffles me. Right. 27 plus another 3, another 6. 33, 34. 34 points for me. To Randy's relative range 1 with 4, that's 4. 5, 6, plus whatever casualties he scored. So it was a conclusive win for the Russians. let's bring this back up to me. At the beginning of the episode, Randy was in the lead. He had more guys in buildings. I had that group in the alleyway, we were in group A. But as soon as I moved them into a building, that changed the perspective quite quickly. And at that point, I thought, I don't need to push. In the past, I might have pushed. I am quite an aggressive player up front, but I didn't need to. And Randy realised that and then thought, right, okay, I'll bring his group C down, try to infiltrate my group, drop the demo charge, probably blow up the building, and then pushed on. Unfortunately, his infiltrations didn't work. I infiltrated back, and my guys aren't been armed with, just about to say muskets, with rifles against his guys with Schmeisers. He was already on a negative spin, and I got quite fortunate with the concealment cards I had, which lowered again his combat values. And that was the decisive moment when I took out his group C. It was game over at that point, really. But we played on, finished the deck, completed the game, and yeah, we both thoroughly enjoyed it. We didn't get to use the weapon that was introduced in the scenario B, which was the demo charge. But scenario C, city fight. No, this is city fight. Scenario C is assaulting a fortification. We'll bring in flamethrowers and demo charges. So yes, that will be the next scenario we'll play. When we'll play it, don't know, because both of us are going to do some Fire in the Lake is our next little project. But we'll be doing this again relatively soon. So if you can mention in the comments if you want to see, I mean, we could play it without doing these recordings. If you've enjoyed the playthrough, let me know, because then I'll do what I've just done, which is play the log through and such. What Randy doesn't want to particularly be brought into the channel to chat live. That's fine. Got no problem with that. He's happy to play the game. I can do the log file. I can narrate what happens. We're both. It was actually nice to play a game without having to refer to the rules too much. I think we delved into the rules over the course of the 4 episodes, maybe 3 times, because we both know the game fairly well. So yeah, that's it. The game's over. Until next time, buy internet. Oh, before that, play games, have fun. If you got up front, play it. Great game. It's definitely, well, keep saying it's still my favorite game of all time. I cannot fault this game at all. It's tense. It's exciting. There are lulls, absolutely, but those lulls don't detract from the game at all. You know, it allows you to change your hand, change your plan, move on. Love it. So back to saying goodbye. Until next time, bye internet.